Live, gentlemen.
Yay!
Hooray, huzzah.
Fuck yeah. So let's get on it. Um, so the latest Dark Souls 3 has been announced to be the final Dark Souls game, and there will be no spin-offs and no retractions or like any continuations after this. There will be no like Bloodborne or there will be no Lords of the Fallen like games coming out, I guess.
I don't believe that. Honestly, From Software's basically been making the same game since Demon Souls. It's gonna play the next game the guys talked about is a sci-fi game, and it's probably gonna play a lot like a Souls game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, it's good on them if they're really going to go through with it because, hey, they got a lot of money, so they could probably work on other projects. Quit while you're ahead, you know?
Okay, and can everybody see this?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So the director, I'm not going to even pretend to know how to pronounce his name, says
Hidetaka
that,
Miyazaki.
yeah, that, you weeb, um, says he's ready to close the book on the Dark Souls games. In an industry where it's commonplace to stretch the popularity of franchise, also see Assassin's Creed,
And Call of Duty, and Battlefield, and anything made by Ubisoft.
and Kingdom Hearts. I know there's only technically two, but there's a ton of spin-offs and .015 remasters. Um, and, uh, but yeah, he is correct. There are 4 Souls games out at the moment, and
Dark Souls, Demon Souls, Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3. Like,
and Bloodborne. So I guess that
yeah,
makes it
okay.
5.
I don't know if we
Um,
count Bloodborne as a Souls game, though. I mean, it
well,
shares
that's
a lot of
actually the
mechanics,
interesting.
but I think some of our fans would probably hang us for that.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
it's
actually
like,
the interesting thing I learned is that originally when they were coming up with the name, it was originally going to be called Beast Souls. And yes, that just sounds as dorky as it can possibly be. But they changed it to Bloodborne later on. Um, but anyway, back to the interview. Um, but in the annual interview, Miyazaki said that he will be stepping away from the design and setting into a management role. And um, actually, no, there are 6 Souls games because there's also the Scholar of the First Sin. That's sort of
That's
like,
essentially a complete repackaging of Dark Souls 2 with a tiny
yeah,
bit extra content and all the
yeah, it
expansions.
explains a lot more uh, because it
so,
introduces the Scholar, which will appear at regular intervals within the game.
so it's
And
basically, so basically an expansion of a game repackaged.
yeah,
Yeah,
and it
pretty
comes
much.
with all the DLC, but an interesting thing about the DLC is that it's not given to you outright. You actually have to find it in world because chests have been all the chests and enemies have been uh, replaced and sort of skewed around. So like the key to the uh, the the Sunken Crown DLC is in the gutter, and the key to unlock the door to the uh, Broom Tower is somewhere off in the Forsaken Woods or the Shrouded Woods, wherever that is.
That's a good plan for
Oh
like
yeah,
expansions.
because it doesn't give you anything to you just outright, like it did with DLCs in the second Dark Souls.
Do they
And
rebalance the enemy difficulty in the expansions, or are they just still ridiculously strong for the sake of being ridiculously strong?
from what I can tell, they knocked back the damage that most undead can do, and some of the harder enemies that show up later, like the Cyan Knights, those gold-plated warriors that you see in Drangleic Castle, they will show up like at important chests around the area. Like they'll be protecting sublime bone dust at certain areas and guard Adalia's keep.
Hmm. 'Cause one thing I couldn't stand about the expansions is just if you're playing From Software expansions, they're essentially all designed underneath the assumption, or at least to my interpretation of this, is that they're for basically the player who's already played their game to death. So they're insanely just difficult for the sake of difficult.
Yeah, they're assuming that you've been playing it nonstop. And given how I have 250 hours in it, I'd say they're right on the money.
Well, yeah, but when I go to play an expansion, I don't want something that's just a grind to get through because they assume that I have like a level 5,000 character, and I've literally become like transcended existence, and I'm sitting there levitating with my game controller, become like the best Dark Souls player ever, with like crap, like my drink flying up to my mouth, because I'm just so enlightened and crap. I'd like to have something a bit more balanced, which I think they did better when Bloodborne expansion, because it was just more difficult, but still at the point where they expected that I actually want to play.
Mm-hmm.
They just want you to get good. That's all.
I platinum Bloodborne and Dark Souls 2, so I'm
As did
good.
I. So,
And Vendrick was the most broken crap ever.
King Vendrick, the
Yeah.
when you find him in the undead crypt.
Yeah, and you have to kill him.
Oh, you don't actually have to kill him, but
No. For the platinum achievement in Dark Souls 2, at
oh,
least on the
platinum,
PS3.
yeah.
Yeah, you have to kill him, and the only way you can kill this guy is that you have to respect your character to the exact right build, wear the right armor, and do the exact right moveset, and hope and pray to the god of hitboxes that stuff registers right for the battle.
Uh-huh. And the music that's playing during that fight is just way too soft. It sort of legitimately distracts me.
I don't even remember the music. I was too busy screaming at my screen, to be honest.
But yeah, you'd recognize this tune. It's a very low, soft, sort of
That's why it goes
melancholy
like
piano.
Yeah, I think I
And
remember it.
yeah, the soundtrack doesn't change when you fight him and when he's passive, which is different than all the other optional bosses, like the Dark Lurker and the Ancient Dragon.
Honestly, I was not a big fan of the optional bosses in Dark Souls 2.
Mm,
They were all kind of just extremely overpowered. Hey, here's something to grind against if you really, 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 really want to.
Yeah, I cheesed the Ancient Dragon, and I have no shame about that.
I would not expect you to have any shame. That boss later needed to be cheesed.
Yep.
My problem is when I got around to killing him, the primary method they used to cheese him, I believe it was a ring, they had nerfed it.
Yeah.
So it no longer prevented back damage with it just knocking it down.
Yes, but one thing I didn't like in Bloodborne is that it wasn't as deep as character building as, say, any of the other Souls game, because magic was, even if you had 99 arcane, it still wasn't viable, like, bullet-wise, to invest in a purely arcane build.
Oh yeah, I had to learn that the hard way.
All the magic does is like 800 damage at maximum, I believe, and they consume so much quicksilver bullets that you can't attack regularly like with any of your melee stuff. So you kind of have to be a melee build in order to actually beat the game, and you can't be a gun dealer because again it's the same thing. You just cannot deal the right amount of damage or enough damage to bring down anybody.
I've also found that the gun, when it staggers, is also extraordinarily semantical. I've shot guys which would, when they're in the middle of their moves, stagger them. Would do it like for 10 times, same spot every time, no issue. And then all of a sudden it would be like, all of a sudden the game just decides that, well, no, this is not going to stagger him no more.
Uh-huh.
And like in like the expansion, like when you come across those old hunters, the
Mm-hmm.
guy with the shotgun and the whip. I hate that guy because there was never some middle ground where I would just take a tiny bit of damage from fighting him. It was either this went extremely well and he got staggered when he was supposed to be staggered, the dodge worked, blah blah blah, or it went extremely horribly and I'm downing at least three no, I want to say Estus, no that's wrong, blood vials to heal myself when I'm done.
Mm-hmm. But this Dark Souls 3 looks like it's going to be a sort of return to formula. I just hope that they include faith and intellect again, um, because I sort of like to play as a mixed spell slash melee, kind of mediocre in both fields, so I can get through the game at least once. Just for shits and giggles, and then I'll play through it 2 more times as a purely magic user and then a purely melee user.
I typically
Um,
go pure magic.
yeah, and but an interesting addition to Dark Souls 3 is going to be melee can use special arts, which is something that harkens back to, I guess, really any JRPG, is that
Ooh.
MP will be consumed to initiate special attacks, much like in, I guess you could say, Final Fantasy.
Hmm.
Uh, to do power break, guard break, and so on and so forth as a melee character.
I
They've
thought that
also
was
added mana bar back too, which is really nice for
okay.
Yeah,
speed.
yeah. Mana MP, it serves the same purpose. It's basically your special
Yeah.
meter.
I thought that was a stamina bar though.
No, they have the stamina bar, which is the green one, and in the original Demon Souls, they had a mana bar, and your spells use mana. They didn't have a count like in Dark Souls when you got a spell. It was like this works for 8 times, and if you got like a ring, maybe you could increase it to like 10, 12. I forget the number. But now they're going back to weapons use mana for their arts, and spells will use mana instead of having a counter, and you can have an Estus flask specifically for mana and a one for health. So I'm actually quite happy with the return to form because, now I can actually invest in my mana skill or whatever it's tied to, probably faith or whatever. I forget what. Even you guys remember what it's traditionally been tied to?
Hmm.
The what?
Mana.
What mana was tied to?
Yeah.
It was tied to attentiveness, or It was tied to adaptability, I believe.
Yeah. So if that gives you a good excuse to tap into that, which kind of
Yeah.
disappointed me in Bloodborne because there's like nothing you could tap into to make your have the same effect as it did in Demon Souls.
Yeah. Uh, but yeah, there are a lot of cool abilities, and if I can bring up the trailer here, because
Okay.
I have a very old computer, so uh,
One thing my brother noticed it was that in the last video footage that in order to dodge you also have to use mana, not the
oh,
roll but the quick
that's
step.
crazy.
Yeah. So and he's actually found that kind of nerving because he pointed out that, and I kind of agree with him on this, that it might actually hurt mana builds because mage builds because now you're stuck without being able to you know basically have something sucking up all your mana if you want to dodge right. I
Uh,
mean, you can still roll, and the game looks more responsive in this regard.
hmm
But
I wonder how it's going to start out, though, like how the intro is going to begin,
hmm.
because from what I can tell, this story is not like 1 or 2, or even like Demon Souls. It's it's a take on the Lord of Cinder. If you remember back to Dark Souls 1, there was Gwyn, and he was one of the holders of one of the great souls, which kindled like the first fire and all that shit. So I think during this, you're supposed to be one of the inheritors of that said power and try and bring the world from its
Basically the
emo phase or
reincarnation
whatever.
too.
Yeah.
Were you supposed to be the pygmy?
That's a
Or
possibility
Chief the Scale?
because
Or Chief the
I
Scaleless?
yeah.
Mine would have to be in the pygmy because the first character from Dark Souls 1 was his grandson.
Oh yeah, you're right. That dodging is eating up its mana bar. Though it looks like you're a lot faster in
Quick
this.
step, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and it looks like it's coming back too. Oh no, it's not.
Hmm.
Now, if you want to have it come back, but
He's really pissing around with this guy over here.
Dude, just stab him in the back. Just stab him in the back.
finish him!
This is what happens when you don't get good.
Yeah. I mean, at this point in time, I just get sick and tired of this and just bum
Yeah,
rush
yeah,
him.
there we go. Oh, good.
It was
Yeah,
not
he
that
did
hard.
well. He
Jesus
lost like
Christ.
half his health.
I think it's more showing off the fact that you can dodge really well and how much they've improved that over previous Souls games.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so there's the Estus Flask, and then there's the blue Estus, which I don't know. And yep, you. But yeah,
Oh, great. Second one, he did so well against the first.
uh-huh.
What happened through video?
My computer's slow. I pressed exit.
Oh.
Yeah. There's a special arts that I wanted to bring up because it's pretty cool. And chug it. Let's see. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, mana seems to be connected to.
Quick. They call it quick step, but you can hit circle and it rolls normally too. So I think
Oh, okay.
quick step will just be like where you have a tiny bit of window of even if they hit, it won't damp register. Whereas roll is they hit you, you're dead.
Okay, that's one of the weird things that sort of bothered me about Bloodborne is that, or applies to Dark Souls 2. If they catch you like when you're coming out of your roll, it does like double damage or something.
Really?
Yeah. You've never noticed this is that if they catch you like when you're coming out of your roll, then it does even more damage than if they hit you normally.
Yeah, that sounds fair because you're in the middle of dodging. So if you get caught dodging, you're going to take double damage.
Mm-hmm.
What makes that worse is literally they have this dodge function, and they went about making every boss with the capacity to completely negate your dodge function. Every boss was like 3 times taller than you, and his range basically extended to their weapons were so long they hit you no matter where you were dodging from.
Mm-hmm.
So you had to basically cheese underneath their weapon arc. Something I barely.
Well, anyway, each one of the melee classes does a special mana-consuming attack. Like if you do wield knives, you'll do a flurry of knife stabs. If you use an ultra great sword, you'll be able to break through defenses and launch people and do all sorts of crazy shit. And if you use like that huge curved sword, you'll be able to spin to win, basically. Yeah.
They have curved swords.
Yeah. That's one of the things I liked about Dark Souls 2 over 1 is that they had so many weapons that you could just fool around with.
I hope they bring back item weight, because they took that out in Bloodborne, so essentially every character move exactly the same speed,
Yeah. Um,
which really didn't give you much of a option. So I typically like to go, quick, agile, mage caster with a bit of points dropped into basically, like daggers and stuff.
mhm.
Or if I have to melee.
Yeah, I like to use the biggest weapon I can find. Uh, Not for tactical reasons. I just think it looks cool.
Robert, you?
It looks really interesting, but since I never played Dark Souls before, I really can't give an opinion on it. Well,
It's all right.
excuse me for being poor.
Hey, I'm poor and I played it.
I picked mine up at a bookstore, if you can believe it.
That's even worse than not playing it.
Yeah, there's a local like discount books like on my street, and they recently added like a little games section, and they have tons of like used junk, and even the Goodwill that's like again only like a few walking distance away from me, they have like a little games section, and I can pick up like past gen games and stuff. I can't pick up like the latest PS4 game because again, most of it is a secondhand shop. So
Oh no, that's
I
actually
just
totally
like to
reasonable.
think that I got Dark Souls from some kid who rage quit.
Oh, it's a Souls game. We all rage quit from time to time in those.
Uh huh.
And if you say you haven't, you're lying out your ass. Just straight
Yeah,
up.
I will be the first to admit it. I've raged quit many a times. It was
I'll
actually
admit that.
two very good points. One time I actually did break my bed when I jumped back and said, "What the fuck?" And then just one of the legs on my bed just snapped. I'm not a heavy guy, but it
You should
happened.
probably get some metal frames for your bed instead of
Oh
like
yeah,
wood.
I had that replaced and got like a metal bed at the moment. But it was against the Pursuer from Dark Souls 2, because I couldn't figure out like all of his attacks were like oddly delayed, and I had no agility to my name, so I couldn't like heal or anything.
Yeah,
Uh,
no. I used to occasionally I'd get angry, I'd throw the control at the ground, but when that starts getting expensive, you learn to control your anger real
Yeah,
fast.
just go. Nope. Not getting angry today.
ain't
The
spending.
worst time I did, I can't remember what game it was, but it was some crappy game that, flagrantly actually fucking cheated. And I got angry with her. I threw my Xbox 360 controller at the ground. I didn't mean to throw it as hard as I did, but I did. And then it hits the ground, and then it literally flies back up, like goes 10 feet in the air. And I'm like, look at this. I'm no longer angry because I'm like, wow, that thing really got hair before coming back down, and it was broken.
Mhm. Um, oh, this is an interesting point that is brought up in the interview is that a lot of FromSoft's RPG elements are drawn from the anime and long-running manga Berserk. If anybody here has seen that, it's awesome.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah,
God, the Berserk.
yeah. And he also
I,
says he gets a lot of his inspiration or a lot of the inspiration of the Souls game comes from Ian Livingstone and adventure books. And I can quite well see Lovecraft's works as well as like some stuff from Robert E. Howard in Bloodborne. Uh, if you've ever heard of like Solomon Kane or Conan the Barbarian, Robert Howard is the guy who came up with it. And yeah, but a lot of the enemies harken back to some of their short stories, like the infected students, the ghosts, gargoyles, and uh, no vampires, oddly enough, even though both those authors covered that subject.
oh, there's vampires in Bloodborne.
There is? I haven't found one.
You don't
I'm
fight
pretty sure
them.
I killed
The
everything.
queen, what's her name?
The Queen of the Vile
Vile
Bloods?
Blood. Yeah, Vile Bloods are basically vampires.
Oh. Uh.
That's why they had to be kind of wiped out.
Oh, okay.
Because they're,
Um,
the chalice they drank from, the blood from there actually turned them into vampires, whereas a lot of their people end up getting turned into werewolves.
hmm I didn't pick up on that. I just thought that I don't know. She was kind of like the inheritor of the Palatine or whatever that line was. The creatures that you find in the dungeon, like the Elder and the Descendant and the Queen. I thought that she was like the living
The
descendant of
Penumbra.
those. What?
The Penumbra.
Penumbrum. Yeah, those people.
And
Like
they're
the
not
first people.
extinct. They're
Yeah.
actually, if you, in the lore, though, they say that they're still alive, but they basically go about digging about underground chambers and stuff. It's kind of the weaker point of the game. The queen's even still alive, and you actually can go down there and kill her for the you kind of need to for the platinum. And
Yeah, for
honest,
the Yarnum Stone.
yeah, and which does absolutely nothing.
Yeah, still looks cool.
It really
Um,
does. I'd seriously put that crap on my mantle, and people are like, "Well, what's it do?" I was like, "Well, it moves around, looks spooky, but pretty much absolutely nothing." It's
yeah.
like awesome. Which is
Um,
kind of disappointing because honestly, I think the best thing to do for that stone is like once you get it, it should have allowed you like with for insight summon the queen as companion, especially
ooh.
with the since they added the followers finally in the game
yeah, much
because that would
like
have been cool, you know.
much like the skull of oh, who the hell was it? After you beat the Amelia the Vicar, the skull on the altar will glow, and you'll gain like insight into a cutscene or whatever, and figure stuff out. I wish that the Yarnum Stone would do something like that, but it didn't.
It looks cool
Um,
though.
hmm Okay.
And for people that don't know, the number queen's also the one you meet outside Murgo's wet nurse.
Ooh.
She's the one
Okay.
crying.
Yeah.
Uh,
She's actually in the main game, and then she actually appears in the dungeon to be finally slain.
Uh-huh.
She gave birth to Murgo, who was a child of an old one, and either the wet nurse or someone else killed him. And the wet nurse inherited the power, which created the nightmare, which basically kind of screwed Yarnhelm. Especially after we killed the vacuous spider who was keeping the wet nurse sealed away.
hmm
That didn't help much. Which actually something interesting I noticed while I was actually going back through and looking at some of Miko Lash's footage is that
Uh-huh.
you notice like when you're fighting them that there's a bunch of spiders all impaled in the ground.
Yeah, there's like
And then
spider
I
webs and
remember,
egg sacs all over the place.
yeah, and there's spiders with these little weird sword things stuck in them.
Yeah. That's where you find another
Miko
vacuous
Lash.
spider, like at the altar of despair, uh, somewhere
No, no,
else.
I'm talking about when you know Miko Lash, the guy that built
Yeah,
that
the
iron cage
cage
on his
head
head.
guy.
Yeah. There's a bunch. If you look at the ground, they're easy to not notice, but there's these spider-like creatures, little black balls with legs, and they all have these little, essentially, little energy sources, best I can describe them, magic ones, stuck in them. But
Uh-huh.
in the game's lore, they say that the vacuous spider was actually keeping Murgo's wet nerve suppressed. And I realized that after watching this again, I'm like, oh, so they killed all the little spiders keeping that were intruding in the nightmare.
hmm let's see. Now, he says that the reason why he's stepping away from the Souls game is that like he's been enjoying Hearthstone quite a bit, and I haven't played Hearthstone, but there's one game from FromSoft that I wish that they bring back, and probably I've talked about this game in previous podcasts. It's called The Lost Kingdom, or Lost Kingdoms. That's the game series, and it is from FromSoft, and it came out from 2001 to 2004. And it's imagine Pokemon mixed with Yu-Gi-Oh.
Okay.
Oh
Yeah.
God, why would you create something like that?
No. It sounds absolutely retarded on paper, but it's awesome. Uh, you're basically a summoner, and there are monsters within the cards that you can carry, and you can summon them, and they will gain experience, and you can upgrade them, transform them, and copy the cards with the experience. So, and
So
there's
basically it's Shin Megami Tensei,
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, more or less.
which
except with
one?
cards.
Like which one?
Well, they're all kind of the same. I mean, not the same, but they all have like the same core combat system.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, the character itself is completely defenseless, and in order to summon cards, you must have magic stones on you. And if you don't have magic stones, it'll eat away at your health if you do not have like the uh, adaptive level of a given type of card, because there are 5 types. There's wood, there's earth, there's water, there's fire, and natural, and machine. And each one of them will kind of affect another differently. But neutral does good against machine, and machine, it takes 25% damage away from everything that goes against it, except for neutral, which does 25 damage to all the other elements.
Okay.
Yeah, and you know how it goes. Fire beats water, water beats earth, earth beats wood, and I've kind of gotten that twisted. But anyway, it's a rock, paper, scissors sort of gameplay, much like
oh, the good
Pokemon.
old stuff.
Yeah, much like Pokemon, is that fire will do extra damage to wood, and wood will do half damage to fire. And they have like upwards to like 500 cards, I think it was, and all of them had different monsters, and there were several different kinds. There was one that could summon, there was one that would act independently and sort of roam around and fight for you.
No.
I think that's such an interesting concept, is that the player themselves is completely defenseless. It's the cards that actually help her. And that's another thing about this series, is that it's always had a female protagonist in it. First it was a princess, and then it was a thief.
Nifty.
Yeah. Yeah. And the stories have always been like pretty standard, nothing world-shattering, but
You have problems, you resolve your problems, you become a better person, save the world. Yay.
actually they don't become better people. They don't become better people. They just help the world around them, because for the most part they've kind of taken Link's notes from Legend of Zelda, is that they have a silent protagonist throughout, which
Oh, okay.
I've
So basically they save the
they
world.
only get like 1 or 2 lines each in the game. But there is one constant in that game, is that there's always been an opposing force, and there's always been like an established kingdom to protect.
Nifty.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, I'd like to see what they could do with that for,
Oh
especially
yeah,
with
I'd love
more
to
of an
see
open
it.
world.
I'd love to see it brought into the modern era, or probably 2007 at least. I'm not too high. I will trade gameplay for graphics any day. Um,
Oh, hell yeah, I agree
but
there.
yeah,
To a certain extent.
yeah, we can't go back to 8-bit era though.
Mm.
I don't know, some indie games have been doing pretty well with that.
Oh, like Pony Island?
I have no clue, I don't play them.
Oh, it's this extremely strange 8-bit game that looks like it was developed on a Commodore 64. And it's not what it says on the tin. It's very like trippy. Like the game will glitch out and sort of fuck with you a bit, and some of the options will outright
Oh,
disappear and shit.
Hmm.
Is that intentional or unintentional?
I think it's intentional.
Oh.
Cool. I love when games do that.
Yeah.
I believe
I'll
only
send you a
two have
link.
ever done that before, but I cannot for the love of me remember which two was it. But like one of them literally went to like a like they looked like the game crashed, and I almost got up and turned off my reset my console before the game started playing again. I'm like, oh, okay.
Uh-huh. Uh, so uh, I guess we should move on to the next topic, which is Breitbart. I know people are going to hate on it, but whatever. This is the first thing that came up. Is that Marvel CEO donated $1 million to a charity that the Lord of Pole was hosting,
Hmm.
and
He is our
uh,
god emperor, and you will treat him as such.
yes, we shall. Anyway, and Salon is calling for his head, basically.
Yeah, that's never gonna happen.
Yeah, that's not
Yeah.
gonna happen.
Yeah,
Mhm.
this guy literally has $590 million worth of shares in Disney that he got as part of the Marvel buyout by Disney, and he also got $800 million from this. He's basically almost a billionaire or a billionaire. He
Or a
is
billionaire
not.
through like trade and investment, because a lot of like people on Wall Street, I know they get a lot of heat, but they don't own actual solid money. They have an estimate of what they own.
Well, he actually got like $590 million in shares, and then also $800 million on top of the $500 million in shares. Like he
Okay.
is rich. He's like rich as hell, and essentially they can't throw him out of the company because if they do, he just dumps $590 million worth of shares in Disney, and Disney stock plummets.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
So he's got Disney by the balls. He's a
Yes.
made man.
Uh-huh. And we could
So
bring up a side point here is that movie theaters have kind of been taken over by super hero films. Like for the past, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, all the biggest hyped up movies from like Avengers to all the Marvel films, even Man of Steel, have been like the headlining films. They've always been comics for the past 5 years or so.
someone
Um,
actually wrote an article I read like about a year or so ago about how this is like cyclonic. It goes over and every 20 years we'll have a superhero craze, and then it will run its course, then it will die down. Then 20 years later we'll have another superhero craze, and it will run its course, and it dies down.
yeah, it'll flare. Yeah, this was happening back when I was barely a kid. Is that there was this surgeons of uh, comic book films, and the only one that was good out of all of them was Spawn. And we know how Todd McFarlane kind of goes all over the place with his stories, but it was awesome to see my favorite comic book character on film.
I don't know if it has a comic book or not, but the movie I really like was Mystery Men. It's kind of a comedy, but underneath the comedic elements,
Hmm.
it was just a really good superhero. Like basically, you have a bunch of basically C-rank superheroes with powers that you wouldn't think would make it much of a difference, and they have to take down this supervillain who kills the only good superhero in the city.
Hmm. And just for the longest time, I think the last films that came out that were superhero was Tim Burton's Batman series, and that eventually completely killed every attempt at superhero films for a very long time.
Isn't that the one that
And
had the Batman movie so bad that the director and the director's commentary actually apologized for making this movie?
yeah, that was Batman and Robin Forever, I think. It's the one with Catwoman. No, no, no. This was way later. This was the one with Tommy Lee Jones playing Two Face and Jim Carrey playing the Riddler.
I saw
Uh,
that once, and I couldn't follow it really well, but I didn't
oh
hate
yeah,
it.
it's all over the place. But yeah, that did poorly. Actually, it did well at box office, but as time went on, it started to get like the Star Wars prequel sort of connotation with it, just legendarily bad. But It's not
Well,
horrid, but it's not great by any stretch.
in
And
20 years, someone will come out and prove that there can be a way worse Batman movie.
oh yes,
That I
and
think Star Wars 7 has well adequately proved that. Don't complain about how bad the one installment is, because they can and will make something way worse.
uh-huh. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
yeah, Robert. What's up?
No, I'm just agree with you. I thought, mm-hmm.
Okay. Uh, and for the longest times, I think the only like superhero film that came out after Batman Forever that was worth noting was Sky High, which was a Disney film
Oh
for.
man, that was a good movie.
Oh yeah, it was adorable as hell. Um,
I like how
and
the
for those
villain's
that
like,
have
I went through puberty twice for this.
yeah, but but yeah, that is a pretty interesting take on superheroes. It's like it's an inheritance and it's a lineage, and it's sort of like the day-to-day life of superheroes and their teenage kids. Think of Lizzie McGuire meets Justice League Unlimited, and they go through all the stupid high school dramas, but it makes it interesting because they're superheroes. Like some of these people could destroy the entire school if they wanted to. And
Yeah, Sony has something like the Day in the Life of Superheroes. I think it's called Powers, based
oh,
off of a graphic novel, which is on my totally to get list, but I just haven't got around to getting it yet.
I haven't heard of this, but I will
It's
check it out
essentially,
after.
there's a police detective, and he's basically, if I remember this correctly, and everyone who's listening, please forgive me if I butcher the hell out of this. Essentially, his job is basically superhero relations. Like if someone's superhero gets murdered, or he has to pick up the collateral damage, and it just literally follows him and this whole throughout his basically his job. It's kind of like a day in the life kind of deal.
Okay. Um, but yes, Salon is uh, Salon is accusing this CEO of promoting racism, gender inequality, and um, they follow the line that Trump is basically a comic book supervillain or something. Which, if you've ever seen his speeches, or at least the speeches that they report on, you'll
Oh
find
yeah,
that
yeah.
90% of the time that's not even close to what he said.
It's like so funny because the media's like talking about Trump, and they're like, we don't understand why every time we talk about him that he just becomes more and more popular. It's because like the media still hasn't realized that the internet exists. When they open their mouth and say, "Oh, Trump said this," the first thing I'm doing is going to Google and be like, "Yo, da 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 da." Oh
Yes,
no,
let's
he
see
didn't
this
say
actual.
this.
Yeah, let's see the actual like speech, and let's see the actual feed of the Twitter. Even though there are tons of like troll Trump accounts,
I follow
and
the actual Trump account, so
but
no, actually, it is his official his official handle, so it's kind of
But
fun to
yeah,
follow.
they're lobbing everything at him, even though I can't recall a time when illegal was a nationality, or I can't recall Rosie O'Donnell representing all women.
Oh, don't forget that Muslim's a race, not an ideology,
No.
and that you're all and that you're all racist for not wanting the rape gangs that are now plaguing Europe. Like they have a carnival going on, like 23 rapes already. They had to cancel the kid event because it's the media has not said word one on it, but you can actually follow this if you actually have the right sources.
Mhm.
But you're racist if you actually believe actually state the fact that these people actually do this, and that we might not be getting the best of the best, but the worst of the worst,
Mhm.
which is a,
Um,
no, actually pretty typical for history. No one ever dumps the best citizens off into another country.
mhm.
That's just not intelligent.
Yes, and if I may read verbatim from the actual Salon article, because I'm not going to their actual site unless it's archived.
Well, let's all be
Um,
honest. No one here, everyone here wishes that you wouldn't, but go ahead anyway. We can't stop you.
no one can stop Judge. Uh, Trump has, what they're saying is that Trump has propagated his campaign on racism, sexism, and the inherent misogyny of the right as a way to drum up fears to get attention and voters, which is partly true, but also partially incorrect. And they believe that because of his actions of investing into this charity, which is for veterans, mind you.
Yeah, Trump was just hosting it for the veterans, but they just let this slide. Essentially, he donated to Trump as far as they're concerned.
Yeah. Uh, then, oh God, where was I going? Uh, so they're asking for a boycott of,
Marvel Comics.
yes, one of the
What
largest industries in the world.
Which is actually kind of retarded because their whole audience of social justice warriors and feminists, they don't buy comics in the first place. So it's kind of like telling your audience, like, hey, don't go buying that thing you haven't bought yet.
Mhm.
So they're not even going to see a dip in sales. Well, they are, but for completely different reasons. They've been on the decline if anyone's ever been following comic sales. Catering to these people has apparently not gone well, to put it.
Because most of them don't even buy the comics, so it's kind of a waste of money.
Yeah, and I'm guilty of it too. I for some reason cannot get into like most comics. I think it's because I like crime drama, which is in comics, which is why I like comics like Fable, some of the older Batmans, and what do I have on the shelf over there? I got just Fable, Dick Tracy, of all things. Um,
I just been getting into manga lately, so
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
not
probably where I'm
super
going to
into
switch
manga.
over
There's
to after my craze dies down
One
eventually.
Punch Man on some weeb shit. I can't say the name, and I don't want to butcher its title. So I'm just, and then like some fantasy one that I really liked, but it got canceled after like 5 novels, which I think is kind of sucks because it actually
Mm.
had some really good potential. And then and one that had a giant mech and but it actually had they got the full run and they stopped translating after number 5, so it's really disappointed me.
Oh, okay. God.
My co-hosts have died. This is
No, I'm not.
tragic.
I ain't
I'm
dead. I'm
here.
here. I'm just going through the tweets here that were linked. Uh, oh shit. Uh, Anytime Marvel cheapens women or
Yeah, for those that
marginalizes
are not
minority
seeing the
voices,
video,
it shores up the structure that leads from employee to perma-lamer to Trump. What? It doesn't even
What?
make any sense.
yeah, you know the worst part is that these people don't even like minorities. That's like the worst part too, because you get them talking about them, they talk like they own them. Like I actually have a post from Reddit saved from a social justice where literally claiming they own trans people and that trans people should be damn glad that they have given them fucking rights.
Wow.
Uh, uh,
I mean,
uh,
these people are like extremely racist, and they only pretend they care about minorities because it's part of what they call the narrative, or what Vox Day calls the narrative, or whatever.
Which is true.
mhm.
Because honestly, look at Not Your Shield and Gamergate. It really clearly proved that basically minorities were only a talking point for them. And as soon as they came out against them, they just went apeshit on, excuse my language, they just went berserk on the very same people they claim to be supporting because, they want minorities, but they want minorities that
On a
kowtow
leash,
behind them,
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
kowtow behind them and save them as the true saviors of them, which is
Well,
like extremely, what's that word? Not pessimistic, patriotic. No. Well, putting them
Nihilistic,
down.
narcissistic.
Yeah, like basically like putting them down. Like you're
yeah,
talking down to a child.
yeah, but
Condescending.
Yeah, that's it.
condescending. Yeah, but it's not just minorities. It's just mainly black people. They really don't care about the other
Oh,
minorities.
they hate Asians. Asians are basically white people to them.
Well, I mean, Hitler made Japan honorary Aryans, so I guess there's some credence to their argument.
Well, actually, there were black Nazis too. So
Oh
black
yeah.
Nazis,
Oh yeah.
Middle Eastern Nazis. Actually, yeah, were so.
Oh
But
god.
let's not go into that.
Yeah, let's get back on track.
And we've
Yeah.
achieved Godwin's law, people.
Yep.
We've
Yeah.
talked long enough, and we've reached Hitler. We've completed everything. We can shut down the internet.
Not yet, but soon.
Yeah, I think I have like a
What are we
couple
going to talk about next? Uh,
Fire Emblem censorship.
yeah.
Ooh.
That's what we were going to talk about next.
Yeah. Okay.
You
And
will be
how
mine one day. Anyway.
Okay.
and how the social justice outlets are literally saying this is the best thing since ever. And how you should be grateful that they are censoring content to be, quote, politically correct.
And I'm kind
What
of
is the
mixed
sound
feelings
coming
on
from?
this. I don't know.
Oh, there we are. Shut up.
I'm kind of mixed on this because on one hand, I don't really like the censorship. On the other hand, they did try to make a compromise. Because
One thing you'll learn from Vox Day's book, Social Justice Warriors Always Lie, is to never attempt to compromise with social justice warriors. They don't buy your product. They don't give a crap. It's not about trying to reach an amicable middle ground with these people. It's literally about controlling people.
yeah, but yeah, I understand that, but Nintendo's trying to get the mass market to get more sales.
Yeah, but here's the thing: is that social justice warriors they're vocal, but they don't buy games, and the mass market, while a lot of them might not care, are you gonna be like, oh, hey, you buy that new Fire Emblem game? Yeah, but it was kind of really mediocre. I don't think I'll buy the series again.
Hmm.
So,
Uh, but
I
yes,
mean,
it
like, certain
appears that a um,
there's a bunch of stuff they censor in that game.
yeah. And I'm not new to homoerotic like stuff in video games. Like the first time I actually encountered like even somebody being gay being brought up was, oh man, this was way back. This was back in Fable 2, I believe. It's like the first time I actually encountered this. It's like this farmer's daughter, I mean not daughter, son. Uh, the farmer wants to have a family, but the son cannot like he can't get it up during like these arranged dates that the farmer brings him on. And I was like, oh shit, that's actually a really big fucking problem. So what are you gonna do about it? Well, we could move to the city and sell you this huge farm. I'm like, sweet. What's in it? Oh, just the best shotgun of the game that we've neglected to pack. Awesome.
Sweet. Wait, why do you guys have the best shotgun in the game? Don't ask questions. Okay.
Yeah. Don't ask questions in Fable. You'll just end up, I don't know, bitter.
Why was this game not complete? Why the hell is number 3 so crappy? Why the hell did you guys think on the rail shooter be good? Stop asking
Ooh.
questions.
Yeah. Actually, that reminds me. I think Lion Gate's games closed down after Fable 3, I believe, and they sold the rights to some other company.
No,
Because I
they're
know
still
Lines.
making games. They're making this basically top-down MOBA game, and it looks crappy as hell.
Uh,
It's like
uh, yeah,
Fable.
yeah, but the
What's it
Fable
called? Let me look
license
this up.
was sold off, if I remember right. Um,
No.
because I did an interview with Lord British years ago, and we talked about just how he got into gaming and how he started from basic
No,
and code.
no, they're still in business. They're just owned by Microsoft now.
Oh, okay. Then I'm an idiot. Um, but anyway, back to Fire Emblem. I have not played any Fire Emblem games, so I'm gonna rely on the two of you to fill me in.
Well, Fire Emblem is like a niche strategy RPG that started out on a Super Nintendo, then came to the GBA, then a GameCube, then they had a remake of the first one for the DS, then Fire Emblem Awakening, now this one.
Hmm. Uh,
It's a tactical game where you control a party and of multiple, basically your standard tactical game where you have different classes, different equipment. Except the
Yeah.
difference is you can pair them off to have children for successive lines or something like that.
oh, that's
Have
crazy.
you have you played Advance Wars?
I have, and I have played. What this game sounds like more aptly is it sounds like one of the ogre battle games.
It's like either
Except for
it's like this and Super War Robot Wars. It's like that with fantasy,
Oh,
basically.
okay. Um, but yes, they apparently took out a lot of the mini games, like the petting mini game, which I thought looked pretty cute, but ultimately innocuous. But
Yeah, but you know, America.
we can't pet our waifus.
Yep.
yeah, that's like I understand that argument, but I completely disagree with it. I mean, it's because the primary audience of this game, all the people that were looking forward to this game, wanted the exact experience, and they knew what they were getting. And at the end of the day, if you don't like a piece of content, you don't have to play it.
That's true.
I mean, I know the petting game gave you important items, and I know there was supposed to like some 10-year-old girl in their game, but like if that's an issue, just don't let you pet the 10-year-old girl. Like, this
Yeah,
is
like a
not.
notification will come up, like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?"
Hey, lolly's not illegal in my state.
Nor is it in mine.
Hey,
And
Actually, not
I live
really.
in Michigan, and our state is pretty screwed up with legalized. We're the only state in the union that can't own a flamethrower. Like let
Um,
that let that tell you everything about my state.
uh, you're
yeah.
missing out, man. Uh,
I know flamethrower.
uh-huh. But apparently, a lot of things have been taken out of this. Like a lot of the conversations about sex and same-sex relationships, and as we've said before, the but think of the fucking children. They might be exposed. They
Fuck the
might
children.
be. Might.
Might be exposed. Let's get
But
this
are
right.
they? Well, maybe. Who fucking
Um,
cares?
Like here's the
isn't
worst part is like most kids already know about this stuff. They're not stupid and they have access to the internet and they talk amongst themselves.
plus
I
Call
mean,
of Duty and Halo? I mean, rated M games. You see kids play them all the time. So what's the problem?
Yeah,
oh,
and
because decapitating something with a chainsaw with visceral detail of guts spilling out across the floor is perfectly okay for children to see. But if you show some tits, that's going too far. That's too far, man. Too far.
yeah, or
Even
God
though you
forbid you show some bloody tits.
no,
Um,
no, no. Blight tits are okay. They established that in God of War.
Just can't
oh
show the
yeah.
nipples.
Hmm. Yeah, I just find it fascinating. There's so much you can get away with in terms of gore in games. I mean, uh, most recently with Mortal Kombat, uh, there's a ton of like insanely graphic stuff in that, and that's probably been going on ever since like Manhunt 1 came out, which I sort of bribed the Blockbuster guy to give me. So I like, dude, I'll pay you $100 for me to actually play this fucking game. I was like, all right, dude. Here you go, man.
I would have done it for 80. Stupid kid.
Mhm.
Oh my God, shut up. Shut up! You too.
Okay.
No, not you. There are just random videos playing.
Oh, I thought you were talking to us.
No. On my end, like, this video up here is playing.
Well, I actually thought I pissed you off there.
No. This video right here is just playing at random intervals, and it's annoying.
Whoa, go back. Was that My Little Pony mod, which turns anything into ponies?
Oh my God.
All right, if you can't see here, basically they're showing Fallout mods, and it's a My Little Pony mod for Fallout 4, and it has everything codified. This is glorious. Hey, you guys can hate, but I like My Little Pony. I'm not gonna.
No, I'm not gonna knock you for liking My Little Pony. It just you can't just put everything and expect people to like it. I mean, I used to be a brony, well, a couple of years ago, and even though I got tired of that shit.
Oh, I didn't say I was a brony. I just said I like My Little Pony.
Yeah, I like
The first time I watched this show, I'm like watching this in like 10 minutes, and I'm like, why do I not hate this?
Yeah, that's what I said.
It's got a charm to it that
it stopped being good around season 3. That's when I stopped watching it. Because it was original, then it stopped being original.
I like the show because honestly, it has some pretty good morals, and it's also just recently started going out against communism and Marxism, which is actually pretty nice.
Yeah.
I'm expecting the dangers of a nuclear Iran episode.
What?
Oh, nothing. I'm just talking crazy shit.
Because the show is largely can largely be considered to have conservative values, but it's actually kind of more middle ground centralist. And a lot of the neocons in this country literally keep harping, saying Iran's building a nuclear weapon, even though Germany has checked and said, no, they're not building a nuclear weapon. Then Britain's like, well, we don't trust Germany, we'll check. Okay, yeah, they're not building a nuclear weapon. And the UN checks them every year to make sure they're not building a nuclear weapon. But, don't let little things like facts get in the way of a good narrative. That's what I would say.
But anyway, and this is sort of another thing that has been brought up in Nintendo. They, with their new console, the Wii U, there's a little section on the gamepad which you can attach a statue to called an amiibo or whatever.
I think we all know that.
What's up?
I think we all know what an amiibo is. They don't shut up about it.
I have a couple.
I need to get one.
Yes, you do.
Just Ike and nobody else.
I have Zelda. For
but
gameplay
anyway,
reasons.
Yeah, I'm sure. But anyway, with the little statuettes, they will be censoring or reskinning them for the Western market. So I guess they'll close up the cleavage on some of them to protect, as it stated in the article, how video games can wreck children's fragile little minds. I'm legitimately curious where this will link.
Fire some bullshit stay, it's been well refuted.
Oh. No, it's Cartman. It's Cartman.
It's Cartman.
I hate you.
That's some good trolling.
That's good.
Notice that when people are trying to push some puritanical censorship bullshit, the first thing they always say is, think of the children!
Man, the children are corrupt as hell.
Have we talked to the children to make sure they actually understand this stuff? Or not? No, don't talk to the children. But you said think of the children. No, you're not doing this right. See, you're supposed to just have an emotional knee-jerk reaction to what we're saying and then act on instinct rather than thought.
Because I think that's kind of projection. They don't want to see it, so they try to make some sort of excuse for it.
If it's not think of the children, it's think of the woman. If it's not think of the woman, think of the minorities. If it's not think of the minorities,
It's on principle.
yeah,
Yeah.
then thank you. If it's not on principle, oh my God, you're just a racist, misogynistic, white supremacist, neo-Nazi. Oh yeah,
Well, I mean,
shitlord.
I'm all those things, but that shouldn't lend credence to their argument.
Yeah, that's what I said. That's yeah.
I'm
Just
the
because that's all
I'm the
true does
leader
not
of the
make me
Aryan
wrong.
Union.
Mm.
Well, I'm forming the Fourth Reich as we speak. I mean, I've already got in touch with some, them on the dark side of the moon and down in Antarctica. I mean, we got some serious good shit planned. I mean, you guys look forward to it. 2017, man.
Yeah,
2017, Return to the Fourth Reich.
sweet.
And no
Anyway,
Blazkowicz is going to be able to stop me.
um, so this is all coming from Nintendo proactively self-censoring itself, which is completely within their right to do so. But I'm really not a fan of it. If anyone to do it, I wouldn't even like it if like uh, either oh hell, what's a good example? I wouldn't like it if any developer, even if it's a developer I vehemently dislike, censors themselves to appeal to either me or a designed market.
Well, here's the thing: is that this comes from Nintendo of America, which is just infested with these people with the ideology of political correctness. That they brag, the localizers, they actually brag on their link ND pages and Twitter that when they come across content like this, they just censor it, and that they can censor it, and they can make it politically correct. And at this point, I just think that Nintendo just doesn't have an idea what their Western market's like, and so they listen to these people and they're telling, "Oh no, 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 Americans they don't like that sexual stuff. Even though the porn industry is the only thing that's been recession-proof, they don't, they
Yeah.
don't, they don't like cleavage. That doesn't sell. They're all puritanical over there, and if you don't have enough minorities in there, you're just going to be offending them and stuff."
Because that's what Japan thinks about us. We're too prudish for them. That's why. That's why a lot of stuff gets changed when it comes over here.
Yeah, because of the
Uh,
gatekeepers.
Yeah, basically the gatekeepers run the top people, so everything goes through them.
It sucks.
uh,
Like they did like this isn't even as bad as what they did to Xenoblade X. Like they changed most of the names of the groups to the point where it lost a lot of its important connotations that it had to the stories.
Yeah.
They removed quests they can consider problematic. They changed content. Um, they just butcher that entire game. So I mean, if I ever get Xenoblade Chronicles, I'll just hope there's like or not, I mean Xenoblade X. I'll just probably try to import like a Chinese edition because if you don't know, you can go to Play Asia and they'll have sometimes Chinese editions, and Chinese editions typically come with English subtitles.
that's how I got my Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition. I got it through PlayAsia, and there's an international version that is completely uncensored, even though I have the uncensored American version. Of that will come in two versions. You can either play it with English voice actors or Japanese voice actors with subtitles, and uh, it's pretty cool. I mean, the combat has gotten a lot faster. It went from 40 frames previously to 60 frames now, which
Nice.
yeah, that's one of the good things that I like about the special edition, along with having the ability to play with as three new characters. You can play as either Virgil, Lady, or Trish,
Oh.
and yeah, uh, 4 was probably my favorite Devil May Cry next to 3.
I kind of
And
special. I haven't finished 3. I rented it like a while back, but I finished 1. Played 2 and played 3. 3 so far has been my favorite.
yeah,
I still could.
one's just I
Old
cannot
school.
play it. No, I straight up cannot play it. It's just way too clunky for me. I think it's because I've become jaded with the very fast pace. I've sort of gone in reverse. I've gone from 4 to 3 to 2 to 1.
Yeah, I liked one for what it was, but
One didn't age well in terms of mechanics. One did not age
that
well.
Oh no.
that game was so punishing. Like if you screwed up, if you used up your items, or if you just were not good, just get
Yeah,
good, noob.
yeah, exactly.
That game literally just stomped all over you and like with a high heel pressing into your face as you're lying in the dirt, coughing up your own blood. And it was like, yeah, should have got good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a whole new mindset that you have to go into if you're going from 4 to 3 because you can't be as risky and everything is a whole lot oddly delayed, I have to say. It's not as easily telegraphed and stuff like that. But it is very punishing. Like I've done like the damage ratio is like normal enemies in 4 on the highest difficulty will do 2 bars of damage at most. In 3, they can take off well into like a fourth of your health, no problem. So you have to play a lot more, play closer to your chest on 3.
You have to get good.
Yeah, and there's no camera swinging in that. Um, so,
Or well,
so
could go play
I,
at DMC.
yeah. Um, I, 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 I like the combat in that,
I won't touch the
even
game.
though it was sort of like it slowed down a lot because a lot of the enemies have such immense amounts of health, and you have to fight them with specified weapons, which is against like the whole idea of mixing everything up.
Hmm.
But I just outright despise their Ninja Theory's iteration of Dante and Virgil, respectively. And
Oh, you mean you didn't like the big plot twist, which was obvious to anyone who's actually read the wiki or played any of the original games?
yeah, Virgil is going to betray you, or something to that effect. He's not Dante's friend. He's his brother, certainly, but they're on polar ends of the earth.
You know what the worst part is? Originally, this was actually supposed to be a prequel, and
Yeah.
then after it bombed immensely, they said, "Oh no, alternative universe, alternative universe."
Yeah, I hope so, especially since the whole idea of Devil May Cry, or all the
Jack died again.
Uh-oh.
Well, I think I can guess what he was about to say is that the whole point of all Devil May Cry games was to mix things up and
Yeah.
basically get good at the combat and rack up combos and and actually had a mature storyline, whereas DMC was some emo punk
Yeah.
10-year-old's idea of what would be cool.
The edgiest the edge.
Oh my god, I'm so edgy.
It's basically.
I like that one trailer for Hatred like that. It's like, I am so edgy, so effing edgy, and everyone has to die. you ever there's actually a Steam review on for a Hatred, and it reads that one man's magical journey where he discovers the true meaning of friendship.
uh,
I'm like, that sounds about the same game I play.
yeah.
What does it mean he's no longer presenting? Oh, okay, never mind, I figured that out. No. So you play so switch topics here.
Okay.
Have you played the new XCOM game yet?
I want to, but I haven't played the first one because I'm too broke to buy any games at the moment.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Oh. You don't really need to play the first game. Honestly, I think with Enemy Within is actually probably better than number 2, and I know a lot of people are gonna hate me because of the awesome snake chick. But honestly, It's basically 1.5. XCOM
Okay.
2 is. It gets a lot of things better, but still has a lot of the same issues that number one had, especially with the random number generator.
Okay. I heard.
Basically, as I like to put it, you could have soldiers miss impossible to miss shots, where enemies can hit impossible to hit shots. And this is both fair and legal.
Uh, I heard about the things that happened on this Steam forums about how they messed up a lot of things and developers didn't do anything about it.
Yeah, that's true. Like a lot of these missions have timers, and the whole point of the game is supposed to be like you feel like guerrilla warfare, and you really don't.
Oh,
And so you have to sneak in. There's a sneak phase a lot, begin a lot of missions, and to get to the enemies, it takes about like 3-4 turns, as a lot of people have pointed out. I
okay.
didn't count it until but you have like 12 turns to get this done, the whole mission. And if you guys are not at the extraction point, you lose all your guys.
Oh,
Um, yeah, and so one of the mods I have installed, 'cause I don't want to get rid of the timers because I kind of like the pressure. Basically, adds 4 extra turns for everything that's not a story mission, because that way you actually have time to sneak, and you're not getting
uh,
because the problem with these timers is that enemies still take a couple turns to kill.
yes.
So it's like on paper it sounds like a good idea. Like, oh, you just rush past the enemies, except for enemies will then shoot you in the back and you die because you weren't flanked. So you kind of have to deal with the enemies. It's not really a choice.
Yeah.
So that eats up time. Like, for example, this one mission I was rescuing this guy from a PlayStation, and I believe he's an engineer. And it took me about 2-3 turns to get there because I had to weave. There's 2 turrets in front, so I'm not going to go up against 2 turrets because I would honestly eat up like 5, 4 turns probably to get through them. So I went around the
Yeah.
side, you know, and I get inside, and every enemy there's only one way into this building, and every enemy just comes in there, so I'm stuck fighting it out. And I finally get enough of them killed. I'm like, all right, screw this. There's 2 guys left. 2 guys in the far back. One guy's in the back of the prison, and the other guy's off the side of the entrance. And I don't need to kill either of these guys, so I decide to run it to the extraction zone. And I'm literally standing outside the extraction zone with either the engineer or one of my guys ready just to load him up. I didn't have enough movement range to get to the extraction,
Oh.
and it was last turn, and then I literally lost all my guys because forced extraction, which is
Oh.
it's really stupid because my opinion, the easiest way to fix that is allow you to designate where the exit is. Because you're allowed to do that in a lot of the missions, but for some reason, these rescue missions, it's like, okay, get the guy and then go to here. And
Okay.
escort missions where, you have to get from one point A to point B, which kind of feels like they cut out the first half of the mission where you rescue him and just said, hey, get him out of here while fighting through some guys. That makes more sense because, you could say the Sky Ranger only can get to this one point, otherwise he'll be shot down or some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But when you sneak in and then you should be able to set where you want to set it. So yeah. And the usual things, the random number generator is still kind of wonky, where you could like I said, miss shots and hit impossible enemies hit impossible hit shots. And the worst part is they start throwing some heavy stuff at you pretty early in this game. Unlike the original XCOM, where basically you had some time
Yeah.
to get to the good stuff. At the beginning of the game, they're already throwing elite soldiers